I have personally witnessed way too many companies out there that I see are doing a great job for their customers, but they get caught up because they don't have their customer service process in place. No matter how good of a moving company you run, there will be some issues, there will be some problems, there will be some complaints, there will be some damage claims. These things are part of the business. You know, if we could just create a process behind this, if we could just systematize, complaint comes in, okay, here's the steps that happen, and we move forward. So I want to talk to you about just systematizing your customer service, getting it to a place where it's steady, it's consistent. As you grow, this will grow with it. And let's start here today by getting into a few points. All right, welcome back to the Moving CEO Scaling Series, Day 8. We have finally crossed that halfway point, and we are still on systematizing. Those of you that have been with me for the last 7 days, you know that we're talking about scaling your moving company, taking what's working, bringing it to that next level, whether that's opening additional locations, franchising your business, whether that's taking just what you do now and lifting it up and doing more of that and becoming more systematic and more profitable with what you do. And at this point, you're probably like, Lewis, let's start talking about scaling. Let's start getting to that place where we can talk about, how do I open those offices? How do we start franchising? What do we need to do to start growing what we have? And if you've been with me for the last 7 days, you know how important it is that we first stabilize, systematize, then scale. And we don't move into the scaling aspect when we're not ready, right? And there's just a few things that we need to tighten up. And so during this systematize section of this series, we've been talking about different areas of your business. We talked about your marketing, we talked about your sales, we talked about operations yesterday, and today we're going to talk about customer service, okay? Customer service. And what that means is, you know, really think about your customer's journey with your company, right? From the minute they first speak to somebody at your office till that final move is done, and then possibly anything after the move that needs to be handled as well, what that experience is like. And I have personally witnessed way too many companies out there that I see are doing a great job for their customers. They've got integrity, they care, right? They will only focus on getting the right crews on the jobs. They're not looking to just book jobs at any cost and just send anybody out there to do them. Like, they really run a great business. But they get caught up because they don't have their customer service process in place. Because no matter how good you run your business, no matter how good of a moving company you run, there will be some issues, there will be some problems, there will be some complaints, there will be some damage claims. These things are part of the business. And what we want to do is we want to find a way to reduce them. We want to find a way to handle them systematically. And we want to be able to use those complaints as opportunities for us to get better, right? We never want to let a complaint come in and go out without looking at what can we improve with this whole thing, right? We're going to talk about some of that. And so these companies that I see, it's just that when a complaint does come in, they're so caught off guard by it. And, you know, the owner and possibly managers or anybody involved will really take it deeply personal, which I totally understand and I totally get, but we want to get you past that place. We want to make you see that, you know, if we could just create a process behind this, if we could just systematize, complaint comes in, okay, here's the steps that happen, and we move forward, right? It'll make those situations, however few they might be, just run smoothly, right? And they don't throw off everything else, right? They don't kind of rock the boat. So, you know, there's a complaint or a claim or whatever the case may be, and it doesn't throw everything else off for the day. Or worse, you don't start accumulating a bad reputation, I see companies that, have, great ratings on Yelp, but then maybe don't respond to BBB because they're like, oh, BBB is old school, and they've got an F there only because they haven't responded to a complaint or two. If they would have just responded, they'll go back up to, wherever they were, B, possibly an A, right? Or companies that, they're still BBB's everything, Yelp, that's going to go away. That's just a fad. And they don't handle any of their Yelp reviews, right? Your customer journey will dictate your company's reputation nowadays. It is way too easy, way too simple for them to just pick up their phone, say what they want to say, can't do a credit card chargeback, whatever it might be, right? And what I've come to learn about complaints and customer issues is that most of the time they're very small, manageable issues, small, manageable complaints. But if we let them go unattended, if we don't respond to these customers, if we don't give them the satisfaction that they're looking for of, number one, being heard, right, that something's wrong, and kind of going through a process of helping to de-escalate the situation, then it becomes a big unmanageable problem, right? So I want to talk to you about just systematizing your customer service, getting it to a place to where it's steady, it's consistent. As you grow, this will grow with it. And let's start here today by getting into a few points, all right? So the first thing that we want to do is we want to talk about your sales to service consistency. Sales to service consistency. And what this means is it really means that it should really be marketing to sales to service consistency. I didn't have enough room on the card, to be honest with you. So what this means is it's like, look, when we have our marketing, when we have our postcard go out, when our website, whatever marketing material we have, we're starting to set expectations for that customer based on the images they see and the copy that they're reading, the text that they're reading. We're starting to set expectations. When they call in and they speak to somebody from your company, whether they get their quote over the phone, whether you go out and do an on-site estimate, now you're starting to solidify those expectations. You're starting to set new expectations. You're starting to make promises to that customer about the service that you're going to provide. Okay, so now expectations have been set. One of the biggest areas where problems come in is when the expectations are set, but then they're not met, right? You set them in your sales process, but you're not meeting them in your service. And so we want to take a look at our marketing to sales to service consistency, right? And the easiest way to do that is to, again, just, you guys know I'm big into get out a piece of paper, get out a pen, right? Get out a note-taking app on your phone or on your computer, get out a spreadsheet, whatever works for you. Some device of recording what's in your head and get it out. And we want to say, okay, let me take a look at all my marketing. What am I saying in all the marketing? What are the promises that we're going to make? We're going to quilt pad all your furniture, on-time delivery, right? Whatever it might be, whatever's there, whatever promises you're making in your marketing or statements that you're making or promises to your customer, right? Those are expectations that are starting to be set. So then take a look at your sales. What's being said on every call? What's being said on on-sites? What are we insinuating? What are we promising? What are we telling customers? Then take a look at what's actually being done. Not what in theory should be getting done, but what's actually getting done on every move. Yesterday, we talked about creating your on-the-move checklist, right? All these 14 days tie together, right? And so we've got to look to make sure that the stuff we're promising is the stuff that we're delivering. It's simple. You're like, Lewis, yeah, I get that. Okay, but do this exercise, go through that and see, is it consistent? Is your promise on sales what is being done on service? Are your expectations that are set being met on service? Okay. And you could use this tool in reverse too, to help your sales and help your marketing, right? Because what a lot of companies, so let's say you do marketing, sales, service to help improve customer service. And a lot of times, guys, that's just notes in the system, taking really good notes, training your team to take absolutely fantastic notes when they speak to the customer. Customer mentions they have a little poodle named Fifi that might run out the door when the movers are there. Put that in the notes. Everybody needs to know that. When the movers show up and they're already aware of the stuff that was said to the salesperson, they feel at ease, they feel calm, right? You're setting a good first impression. The customer they never want to hear, your excuse of like, well, the salesman didn't tell me that. The estimator didn't tell me that. When they're dealing with your company, they want to be dealing with one entity. Think about like your logo. They don't care that you have multiple departments and that you have to pass the baton from one to the next, right? So to do this in reverse, you basically say, okay, what are we doing in this kind of will help sales and marketing now. What are we doing in our service that we're not talking about in our sales, that we're not talking about in our marketing, right? You might be doing a lot of great stuff. You might be putting floor runners down. You might be putting door jams up. You might be, you might be wearing masks. You might be, whatever steps you're taking to provide a great service, put that in your sales, put that in your, in your script, put that in your marketing. Okay. So just make sure that you've got sales to service consistency. Whatever's being said to set expectations, you've got to meet those expectations, and you need everybody on the same page. Right? Dispatch needs to know what sales is saying so that they could pass that message along to the movers to execute that move correctly. Sales needs to know what's in the marketing so that they can, make sure they're saying the same thing and not contradicting what's in the marketing, right? This will save you a lot of problems, Okay, next one is, before, during, and after the move, decide who is responsible for that customer. Before, during, and after. The term dropping the ball, it's a sports analogy, but if we look at it more like a relay race where someone's passing the baton, right? And they're like, look, here, it's yours. You take it now. You run with it, right? It's actually a better analogy to look at this, because if the call comes in, the salesperson speaks to them, then that gets passed on to operations or dispatch, and then that gets passed on to the movers, and then after the move, maybe customer service. And we've got to define this, because although it's great, it's a great noble thought to say, hey, we're all in this together. Everybody, if the customer calls, I want everybody to just take care of that customer. Yes, of course, take care of them, talk to them, hear out what they need to say, but then get them to the right person who's responsible during that stage of where they are in the life cycle of the move. Otherwise, what happens is people are like, well, I thought you handled that. Right? So let me just give you an example. So for me, I think what should happen, this is what we practice, what needs to happen is before the move gets sold, okay, it's the salesperson's responsibility. Okay, your moving consultant, it's their responsibility. They own that customer, right? They've got the ball, they've got the baton. Once that job gets sold, once it gets booked, it needs to get passed on, okay? And so where does that get passed on? Does it get passed on to your dispatcher? Does it get passed on to customer service? You've got to decide that. Because now we've got confirmation calls that need to be made, right? So you might be having customer service, or you might have dispatch make those calls, not sales. Sales, their job, they're the fishermen. They need to go out and catch the fish. They catch the fish. They toss the fish over to operations. Operations catches gets that fish, fillets the fish, cleans the fish, right? Then the movers are the one that cook the fish and serve the fish, right? If that makes sense. So the point is we want everyone to have a job and a point of responsibility during the customer's life cycle. And so, for me, the salesperson, once you book the job, that goes to dispatch. The customer calls in after they've booked. Even if they want to speak to the sales, we route them to dispatch, okay? Because it's now in their hands. It's being planned. The logistics are in motion, right? Anything that's said, that's the person that really needs to hear about it, okay? Then during the move, dispatch is responsible for that. Of course, the movers as well, but in the office, dispatch is the point of contact during the move. After the move is done, it's either going to be dispatch, or if you have a separate customer service, it'll be customer service that handles that. One of the worst things you could do is send a customer issue or complaint back to the salesperson to deal with it. And a lot of people will do it like, you need to deal with it. It's your customer, you own it, right? But when you do that, you're now taking them away from doing what they're supposed to do, which is fish for more fish, right? Get more customers, handle your leads, handle your sales process, and you're demoralizing them. Every time you put a customer issue or a customer complaint in the hands of a salesperson, you are just chipping away at their confidence, at what they're selling. They're going to handle a customer complaint about this happened, your guys broke this, and then hang up the phone and talk to someone else and tell them what a great service you're going to provide. It chips away at that. You've got to keep this separate. One of the best things you could do if you have the room in your office or however you're set up working remotely, keep sales over here and operations and dispatch over there, okay? They don't need to be working together. They could, communicate by phone, communicate by chat, get up and go see one another if they need to, but they shouldn't be in the same space, okay? Next thing is get yourself what I call an awareness board, okay? An awareness board. We had an awareness board that started off as a whiteboard with, put the black tape on it, the black lines, okay? And any customer that was not 100% happy with their move, not a complaint, but if we knew they were not 100% happy with the move, we put them up on the awareness board. That then turned into a spreadsheet that we kept up on a TV in the office, that then turned into software that went up on the TV in the office. Now people are using smart moving to have their awareness board up there of any open issues, any customers that are not 100% happy. Why? Because if you let them linger out there and you just say, out of sight, out of mind, or if they're not making any noise, there must not be a problem. Before you know it, bad review. Before you know it, complaint, right? We want to be aware and proactive about all the issues, and we want to get on top of them before they become, again, a bad review, a complaint, a chargeback, an attorney letter, whatever it might be, okay? So you want to stay aware, and then someone needs to be actively working to resolve these issues. That's it. Doesn't mean you've got to give them back everything that they're asking for. It just means that you need to decide what you're going to do and move forward, which brings me to the next point, which is complaint resolution process. Establishing your process for how you're going to handle a complaint from the minute it comes in to resolved, okay, whether it's resolved satisfactory to the customer or whether it's resolved unsatisfactory or whether it's resolved we turn them into a raving fan, it needs to be resolved one way or the other. But you need a complaint resolution process. So what does that look like? It just looks like, essentially, what's the first step when you're notified of a customer that's not happy? What do you do, right? These are the things that you need to think through. But think about, okay, when we're first notified of the complaint, what's the first thing we do, right? Well, how could you be notified? You could be notified because the mover let you know on the job that they're unhappy. They could have called in. It could be a review. It could be a formal complaint, right? It could be an email. What's the process that you take them through, right? And I'm going to give you some things to think about so that you could create this process. Is first, you need to gather information about what happened, right, on this job. So based on what the customer's saying, you've got to find out, like, where could the problem be? Because every problem in your company, it really comes from one or two places. It's either people or process. It's either there's no process, therefore things just were run the way the people wanted it to be run, that were involved, or the people aren't following the process, right? Or the process needs to be updated because it's outdated. And so we need to figure out what that is. So part of this complaint resolution process is having someone that's going to actually speak to this customer and hear them out, right? Seek to understand where they are coming from. We've got to stop being so defensive. And I know it's hard when someone's like, you guys did a shitty job. But we've got to put ourselves in a position where we look at ourselves as like a third-party mediator, if we will, right? No emotional attachment to this situation. Not getting mad at the customer for saying the things they're saying, right? But just thinking about, okay, let me put myself in their shoes. Let me understand where they're coming from. Maybe we did drop the ball, right? Maybe we dropped the ball. It happens to the best of us. It happens, you know? And so we've got to just listen. And there's two things that happen when you do that. First of all, you gather intel, you gather information, you find out what the issue is, and you find out what the real issue is. Because a lot of times what they're saying is the issue is not always the real issue. You let them talk, you let them talk. The other thing that's happening, right, other than finding out what's really going on, is you're allowing them to release their pressure valve, right? You know, when you let the air out of a tire, you press that little knob or whatever it is in the middle, right? And it's like, and it's deflating. You've got to be that for that person, right? And the best way to do that is to listen without defending, listen without blocking, listen in an empathetic way. But while you're doing this, you're taking notes so that you understand what's going on, right? And when you do this, when you allow, and when I say you, it doesn't have to be you. If you're like, Louis, I can't deal with that. Like, I don't want to listen to all of this. Okay, good. Hire somebody that will. Find somebody that will be good at it, that will understand it, that's willing to listen, right? So now you've allowed them to deflate. And what happens is we find out through this process, you know, in my programs, you know, my clients have what's called my complaint resolution form, which is essentially a form that you fill out as you're talking to the customer, kind of walks you through this whole thing. And what we come to find out is that what they initially called about that seemed like such a big deal started with something really, really small. But what happens is they feel a little silly sometimes for calling and complaining about something that's so little that they're like, let me beef this up so I could get what I want. Let me make this, let me like add whatever I can to this, because this little complaint that I'm giving here doesn't sound like significant enough. So let me talk about the guy smoking outside. Let me talk about, you know, oh, and you were late, and this, and I was promised that, and which all could be totally true. But what's making them upset? What's the real issue that if it didn't happen, the other stuff would have been, you know, they wouldn't have made an issue out of it. That's what we're seeking to understand. And the only way you're going to do that is putting yourself in their shoes, listening to them, helping them release their air valve, okay? Make good notes, attentive listening, right, to what they're saying, not just like making fun of them in the office with, you know, whoever else is there, right? And I get it, I totally get it, but this is an opportunity. You've got to start looking at these complaints as an opportunity to make your business better. Because every time you don't really listen and hear them out, you're missing the most valuable information you can about real intel to how your company's doing. The perception, the expectation that you're setting, right? Once you do that, part of your complaint resolution process, like never leave the scene of a complaint without looking at how do we correct this internally. Always deal with the customer. Always get it resolved, right? And then what do we do with a customer that is just, okay, I'm satisfied with the resolution, versus someone who's like, I'm still pissed off, or somebody that's like, oh my God, you know what? You guys really, kept your word, and something happened. Listen, mistakes happen. I totally get it, but you stood up, you did the right thing. What could I do for you? Where could I give you a review? Right? We've got to take people through this process. And then every single part of this complaint resolution process ends with, where do we need to have process improvement or training for our people so this doesn't continue to happen? Like, how else are you supposed to know where your weak links are in the business? Doesn't mean the person's weak, doesn't mean you're weak, right? This is a unit, right? You could have the best players on a team, but if they don't know how to play together, if there's no game plan, if there's no plays that there's somebody calling, right? People will drop the ball. So we've got to identify after each one of these and figure out what you're going to do about it moving forward. And part of the complaint resolution process might need to be, you speak to the salesperson. Somebody needs to, okay, if the complaint stemmed from there, talk to them, get their statement, see what they said. If it came from the movers, talk to them, see what they said, get some information so that you could resolve the complaint, all right? And then what you want to do, I know this all might sound like common sense, but what I want you to ask yourself is, are you doing this? And are you doing it consistently? Not like, Lewis, I know this stuff, but are you doing it consistently? You know, you might know that in order to get a six-pack of abs, you've got to, I'm not signaling because I have a six-pack. I'm just, I'm saying, if you know you want to get a six-pack of abs, you know, you're like, oh, I know I got to eat better. I know I've got to work out. I know I've got to, do my core work. Just knowing it's not enough. You've got to do it consistently, right? This right here is another core function of your business. The 5 fundamentals of every single moving company are lead generation, booking moves, servicing moves, customer service, and accounting. Everything you do in your business falls under those 5 categories. You get those 5 systematized, you're ready to scale. Right? You've got your laying good foundation to build on. You don't systematize this stuff, you're going to scale on quicksand, and it's going to be like this. And you're going to wonder why it's such a shaky ride, and then it becomes suffering instead of scaling. That's why we're talking about systematizing, right? So you've got your complaint resolution process. Now, you need a process for getting those 5-star reviews. We can't just wait for these to fall in our lap. We've got to be proactive. We've got to go for them. We've got to get those 5-star reviews. So what's your process for this? Too many people, it becomes such a painful point when they get the bad review. But what are we doing to, mitigate that with good reviews? Okay. So you want to have a system like those of you that are on, my software, Smart Moving Software. You have the ability, I hope you have the ability after the move is done, the customer gets a text, the customer gets an email, and it takes them through what I call the review fetcher process of guiding them through a quick, easy, painless 60-second process that will allow them to, go give you a review, but also filter out anything that will be a bad review so that it'll come in to your awareness board so that you could go to work on your complaint resolution process to deal with it, right? So imagine sending out something to a customer and they're like, hey, I'm giving you 2 stars. Well, instead of guiding them to Yelp to give you a review, instead it comes into your awareness board and says, hey, there's somebody that's unhappy, get to work and make them happy, figure out this problem, right? Whereas, they say, oh, you guys were great, 5 stars. It leads them right to wherever you want them to go. You want them to go to Yelp. You want them to post that review on Google. You want them to post it on Yelp, Facebook, wherever. Systematize this process. Systematize this. Have your movers get the review right there on the spot. Get the video testimonial right there on the spot. You've got to build this in. Otherwise, if you don't build this into the day-to-day, it just doesn't get done. It just doesn't get done. I mean, ask yourself, like, how long? You know this. I mean, you guys know this. I'm not telling you something. You know that you need to get more 5-star reviews. You know that, right? Give me a thumbs up. Let me know. Like, you need more 5-star reviews. This is something that you can do something about. You can't do something about Yelp, filtering them all off the first page, right? You can just keep getting more and more and more and more and more to where whatever percentage they filter off, it's fine. But your online reputation is everything right now in 2020. I call it your Google garden. You Google the first page, you Google the name of your company, and that first page that's there, that's your, like, people are like, my online reputation. Go Google the name of your company, whatever's on that first page, that's your online reputation. That's what customers are seeing. Go clean that up. Go resolve those issues. Call any customers you see with low star ratings and run them through your complaint resolution process, right? Learn from it so that you could see, okay, but there's a problem here with our sales to service consistency. Where did we drop the ball? Maybe we dropped it because during passing the baton, before, during, and after the move, there wasn't clear instruction on who's responsible for that customer, right? Guys, go after these 5 stars. Go after the 5 stars and go after the 1 stars, right? You've got to start embracing customer complaints and look at it instead of like, oh man, and just getting totally, I mean, I get it. I think because I do a lot of personal development work and stress relief work for myself, for my own mindset, I've been able to, over the years, not take it so personally. But does it feel like a stab in the chest? Of course. But then you've got to move past that and look at it and go, you know what? That complaint's there because there's still something that is not resolved yet in the business. There's still something that if I was to go scale right now, I'm going to bring that problem with this model. By systematizing your business, you're creating a model business, right? A model. A model is something that you could take and you could duplicate. Before you take something, and if it was a document on your computer and you want to make several of those documents, you could just copy and paste. But before you copy and paste, you want to make sure that original document or whatever it is how you want it to be. It's the same thing with your business. So start looking at all these complaints that come in. Sure, they're frustrating, but it is what it is. It is what it is. Don't think this is an easy business. Don't think that you could not put focus, energy, and attention on customer service and resolving issues and run a great business and make good money and live a good life and let things run systematically and not be putting out fires every single day. It's just not the way that it is. But it doesn't mean that that's the business and the way that it has to be. Meaning, take a little time to set this stuff up, right? Take a little time to set this stuff up. It is insane to go year after year after year after year with the same problem and just complain about it? Will you be able to put every single complaint, every single issue to rest? I hope so, but chances are no. Chances are there's still going to be issues. Moving's a very stressful time. You're walking into somebody's house. You're taking everything they own. You're putting it on a truck. Strangers are coming in their house, putting it on the truck. It's stressful. You know, there's a lot of cheap furniture out there that breaks the minute you put a finger on it. So complaints would happen. Complaints will continue to happen, but it's how you deal with them. You know, and I'm not saying you don't care, right? When a complaint comes in and it doesn't faze you, it's okay if it doesn't faze you, because the reason that it doesn't faze you is, you know, it's going into your little process to handle the customer's issue, find out what's happening, assess how you can make it better, and put a plan in place to make it better so it doesn't happen again. If you keep doing that cycle, with every complaint that comes in, they're going to get less. They're going to get less. They're going to get less. And you and your company are going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. You see how this makes sense? And you care less, not that you don't care about that customer, you just feel confident and know they're taken care of. We took the time and we set up our complaint resolution process. And because we took that time, I don't have to get so emotionally involved in every single one that happens. Right? That's how you truly care. Not by letting it make you sick for the day that a complaint came in. Losing sleep over it. Having a plan to work on your marketing strategy and scale and work on big things in your business, needle movers, and it all gets thrown off because that complaint came in and you're just emotionally like out of it now, right? I get it, but I get it because I was there, and I get it because I made the leap from that to a better way, which is what I'm talking about. And it's almost like you go from an insane way to a sane way of running a business. And when you're in that place, you make better decisions. When you're in that place, you're a better employer. When you're in that place, you're able to have a conversation with a customer and truly see where they're coming from, not take it like it's war. And they're like coming at you and attacking you, right? You seek that information. You want to know, why is it that they're unhappy? Because we need to solve that. Because otherwise, my plan to open 10 offices, if I'm dealing with one complaint a week, I'm going to be dealing with 10, probably more a week. Because once it's not in your site, it's a different story. We'll talk about that when we get to scaling. Take the time to get this stuff in order. Let me recap. For those of you just joining us, I want to make sure you don't have to go watch this whole replay unless you are digging these points here. Number one, they're all out of order. Let's see. Sales to service consistency. Make sure that whatever you're saying in sales is happening in service. That's number one. Number two is assign someone who's responsible for that customer's happiness before, during, and after the move in the company. Okay? And how are you going to pass that baton on? Then, any issues that you might have, they need to go on some type of an awareness board, okay? It could literally be a wall with sticky notes. It could be a whiteboard where you write everything up. You could do it in Smart Moving. You could have it on an Excel spreadsheet. Just have a place where you're aware so they're not out of sight, out of mind until they end up as a bad review, all right? Get yourself some place to be aware of all the complaints and actively work to resolve them. Complaint resolution process, okay? Create the process from the minute you're aware of a complaint to resolving that and everything that happens in the middle, and then go out there and proactively get your 5-star reviews. So many of you deserve these. So many of you do such a great job, but are just saying, you know what? Let my service speak for itself. If they want to give me a review, let them give me a review. There's nothing wrong with asking for it. Sometimes if you don't ask, you don't receive. Go get those 5-star reviews.
Hey, my friend, before you go, you've got to hurry and watch these next few videos over here. They will absolutely help you take your moving company to the next level. Go watch them now, and I'll see you over there.